that accountability started when I felt empowered. Because sometimes when you want to take accountability, you have this deep level of shame and guilt. I felt so guilty for so long with everything I'd been through. And what I was able to do, I took a step back and I saw the mythology of my soul. I saw the hero's journey that I was going through, and I stopped feeling sorry for myself.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome back. This is Jenn Palmer, and today we are going to discuss the Ascension Chronicles of Whitney Schrader, and I'm so excited for you to hear about her story and to see the progress that she's made in her journey. So without further ado, let's discuss what Whitney's journey was like. Whitney, why don't you describe who you are and what you do?
Hello, guys. My name is Whitney Schrader. I am an energy healer, certified Reiki master, a shaman, medicine woman, motivational speaker, and a holistic metamorphosis practitioner. My biggest passion is to bring people together and to unify all multidimensional aspects of themselves to bring forth the highest, most beneficial healing and transformation and empowerment using dance, art, music, sound, imagination, and that internal fire within.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Well, I know that we we met about like 5 years ago, and it was was it 6?
Oh no, 5, 2018. Yes.
Yes.
5.
Wow. Okay. So 5 years ago we met, and it was quite a journey that you've had in those last 5 years. And so if you could just quickly describe, where you were at, what you were experiencing mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, just so people can get a good idea of the baseline of where you were.
Woo. All right, we'll keep this short and sweet and to the point. I was in a complete mental, emotional, physical, sexual, and spiritual chaos. It was chaos. It was chaos. That is the best word that I could describe it. It was a mess. It was a hurricane of pain, of fear, of darkness, of sadness. I didn't want to die. I wanted to live. I always could feel that huge magnitude of my mission, but I was in such deep suffering that I had no clue how to help myself. I had been working with psychologists and psychiatrists since I was 13. I have been through the ringer with a multitude of mental illness diagnoses, schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, bipolar, borderline personality disorder, manic depression, anxiety, name it. I so-called had it, ADHD, suicidal ideation, which really it was me trying to awaken spiritually. And those were the mental illnesses that mimicked the symptoms of going through a 30-year dark night of the soul. Mentally, I was looping. I had karmic thought patterns. I was ruminating. I was drowning in my own suffering. And I think what the biggest suffering was, I wanted to help others, and I had no idea how to help myself. My relationships were incredibly toxic, incredibly codependent. And I know that started at a young age when I had dealt with sexual abuse when I was 4. I had dealt with going through my own confusion and pain with sexuality, and Lyme disease hit me at age 19. So there was a multitude of layers of neurological brain fog. It was complete chaos, and it was so scary inside my body. I felt like my body was in a constant state of Armageddon. It was energetically, it was so scary. And I really had a hard time waking up in the morning. If I could get through the day and not think about leaving this earth, it was a good day. I could never keep a job for more than a few months. My energy levels were depleted. My body was in so much pain that I couldn't play sports anymore. I isolated myself because I felt like such a burden to others. I felt just completely alone in my journey. And it was very, very scary.
Yeah, I remember when you first reached out, and we were neighbors, and we didn't even know it. We
Yeah.
less than maybe a half mile from each other, maybe a quarter
You were
mile,
behind me. It was like
pretty
500
much.
feet.
Yeah. Well, if you
I
take the
could
road
grow.
though. But yeah, and we had no idea. And then I opened up my center in the neighborhood basically, and she found us. And I remember when you reached out and I read your letter, and it was complete chaos. It was disjointed thoughts, and it was a big long, like one long paragraph, and it was just crazy. And I know I was like, oh Lord, what am I reading here? And I could feel your anxiety. But what's interesting is I could feel your anxiety even before I read the email. And I was like, wow, where is this coming from? And I had no idea. And then when I read your email, I was like, oh, it's Whitney. And I
Oh,
was like, who is this Whitney? And but yeah, it was fascinating. So we met and we just had some great conversation, and I immediately felt connected to you, and I knew in some way I needed to be of service to you. And but it's amazing, like we just really kicked off, and so much healing has happened, and you've been working with us ever since. So I don't know if you want to describe that process. I mean, you really had a breakdown, and everything hit the fan. And then when you were able to step back, you asked if you could work here. And I was like, yes, because I got a strong from the universe, bring her in, because you needed to be in this energetic space to heal. And you needed the access to things to heal. So I want you to just talk a little bit about that journey of healing, and well, maybe first talk about where you're at now. Like, how do you feel now? Where are you at? Where do you still have work to do? Like, what are you still working on? We always have an unfolding job to do of evolving, right? We're always working. We're always filtering out the things that aren't working for us anymore, and learning and growing and healing. And so just tell me more about where you're at right now, and then let's get into the journey from A to Z.
man, the place I am in now, it's a miracle. It's a true unfolding miracle. And this is legitimate. I am grounded. I am happy. I feel whole. I feel centered. I feel balanced. I feel clarity towards my mission. I feel a trust in the universe, trust in myself. I feel like I can rely on myself to nurture and give myself the self-care that I need. I feel emotionally fulfilled and balanced. I feel deep, unconditional love for myself and from God. I have reliable, beautiful friendships that I show up for. I am a reliable employee and worker. I have my own business, my own healing business, helping people through the very things that I was suffering with and from. I have an unbelievable relationship with the divine that guides every moment of my life. I feel this incredible, limitless connection to all that there is and all that will be. I feel inspired and motivated, and I'm not afraid of the challenges that face me on a daily basis. I have turned into a leader with integrity, grace, and humility. I have an incredible amount of compassion for myself and others, which I still work on every day. Every single thing that I've mentioned can always be improved upon. It can always be refined. But there is a deep, deep secure and stable and fiercely loving foundation that I stand upon today.
Beautiful. All right. So what is it that you went through in your journey? What did you discover about yourself? And, like what were some of the key awarenesses and shifts that you felt during the healing process? In the healing process, it's always a combination of healing energy and consciousness work, and like that deeper understanding and knowing of who you are and why you're going through what you're going through. So why were you going through what you were going through? What happened there?
Wow. And so the first, I'm going to mention holistic metamorphosis because that was when it really started coming together. That was in, I think, April of 2019 when I took the holistic metamorphosis foundation course. And I started to build this solid ground while the other foundations crumbled. And through your mentorship and guidance, I'll mention Nourishing Journey briefly because it brought me the holistic metamorphosis, but being in and surrounded by that energy of support and higher consciousness, it allowed me to see a more truthful reflection reflected back to me. When I first took the holistic metamorphosis foundation course, all these strands of knowledge and consciousness started to create a structure within me that allowed my natural energy healing abilities, which had went online in 2017. It started to provide this structure. And I want to use the word ritual in a positive way. I started to do these energetic clearing practices each day, learning about the origin of the pain, disease, and trauma. And so what I started doing was I started to pull things up from the root ball that had been there. And I started to completely do a 180 and bring forth the consciousness that was already streaming through me and apply it to my everyday life. With my relationship with my parents, I started to see a difference. I started to actually cultivate deep, meaningful friendships. I became a reliable worker because I started to take accountability. But that accountability started when I felt empowered. Because sometimes when you want to take accountability, you have this deep level of shame and guilt. I felt so guilty for so long with everything I'd been through. And what I was able to do, I took a step back and I saw the mythology of my soul. I saw the hero's journey that I was going through, and I stopped feeling sorry for myself. I didn't know that I was feeling, not in terms of poor me, but like, oh my God, is it ever going to get better? Like there has to be a purpose behind this. So the HM, it started to reveal my life's path and journey and the lessons that I was meant to receive from each interaction. So each day working here and working with the HM, it gave me a rubric and it gave me like a litmus test for where I was heading. And I built upon it. I took the Reiki, I took the shamanic healing, but the HM was really bringing forth a deeper level of consciousness work and energy work and combining them for a more holistic way of looking at my life, looking at where I've been and looking at where I am and where I'm going. And so I just kept building and I started doing the detox. The HM allowed me to start making these decisions for myself from a more empowered aspect and from wisdom and understanding versus shame and guilt. I started to make choices from a place of self-love versus fear. And I had been through a lot of self-medicating in my life, and I started to really look at all of these ways of thinking. My thought patterns started to shift, and therefore, my beliefs about myself started to drastically shift. So my actions, therefore, could shift. And so that the HM was such a beautiful realization and such an amazing tool to activate me to my own gifts and power that were always there. It just allowed me to channel them in a productive way. I remember working, because we had to, practice each time, each HM, and those attunements, they just started to activate me to my power and seeing myself as a leader and a teacher and a practitioner versus a small wounded child that was lost and scared. But it brought that inner child with me. I stopped dismissing and shutting down and compartmentalizing, and I started to really be able to take action from a place of self-love and awareness. The awareness from the highest perspective, which is what catapulted me into being able to do what I do today, because that it got me off that victim anger pendulum, as you say. I went above it, but it allowed me to, I wasn't going into the Himalayas and meditating. I was in everyday real life with everyday real people, especially living in Washington, D.C. You're not in Bali at a yoga retreat, you're,
Right, I know.
you're here. I mean, Bali yoga retreat, love it. But you're here. So every single day was an opportunity to grow and to acknowledge those triggers that were coming up all day. And it took me, but the HM, it just activated me to the consciousness that I knew was always there. I've always had a kind heart. I've always wanted to help others. But it was the Armageddon destruction system inside of myself that had to leave. I had to release everything, all the barriers between myself and love. And the HM was able to, I think I was taking one a year and then practicing it. And then 2020 hit, and 2021 was when it really, really started to anchor in. I started to feel this love for myself. I started to be able to have those challenging conversations. My relationship with money shifted. I was able to save. I got my own apartment finally. And I got to address all these things that were weighing me down. I used that energy to fuel my own transformation.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Really beautiful. Now, before we get into some of the more I guess, talk about entities, because I feel like, a large part of what you went through was entities. And that's such an important conversation, because it seems like the more issues we have, the more wounding we have, the more entities we have around us, it seems.
Yeah.
And it's a real conversation. I think like 90% of people I work on have an entity connected somehow, somewhere.
Yeah.
And and I've had them too. It's just such a very natural part of our experience. And it's a big part of energy healing is clearing those energies and clearing the traumas and the wounding that they're holding on to. But before I get there real quickly, one of the things I was thinking of, and it's a little bit sidebar here. How many medications were you on when you first started coming here, and working here?
Let's see. So right before I started coming here, I had to go to Shepherd Pratt and detox off of Adderall. I was also on, I think, Xanax, and after Shepherd Pratt, because they diagnosed me as schizophrenic, which obviously I am not. I was on a combination of, oh my God, lithium, gabapectin, something else like a seizure medication. It was multiple, but throughout my life, I think I've probably tried over 40 to 50 different prescription drugs. But when I was seeing you, I think I was at 3.
Okay. And how many are you taking now?
None.
Okay.
Just supplements.
Right. And I just wanted to point that out because, and it's not to tell anybody to get off of medication because that's not what this is about. You need whatever you need, but what I want to say to people is because medications do have side effects. And, they usually mask things. They're not solving the problem. They're managing a problem. And that what I want people to understand is that you can heal most things. Your body knows how to heal. And because it's a mind, body, spirit complex, right? So you got to look at your mental thoughts. You got to look at your emotional wounding. You got to look at the spiritual side of things and the energetic side of things. And then you also have to take care of your physical body, right?
Yes.
And you did a lot of work in that as well. So you were doing some detox work, a lot of detox work. You were taking supplements. You were cleansing your liver, and detoxifying and fasting and doing all kinds of things to really support your physical body during this process. So that was part of it. But I will say, so I wanted to put that in there, because I think that's also important, mind, body, spirit. But some of the most drastic improvements that I saw as the one helping you seemed to be when we cleared entities.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to get
Yeah.
into that discussion because I feel like that's so important. So talk to me a little bit about, and tell our viewers here about what you went through with some of that.
Wow. Let me try and keep it short and sweet. It was, looking back now, I realize now, not coming from a victim standpoint, but I was terrorized my entire life. Yes, I had soul contracts. I agreed to that before this lifetime. But we're just talking about the facts here. It was a constant bombardment of my thoughts, of my body, of my mind, of my heart, of my energy, everything that they could get their hands on, they ripped apart. And it was absolutely exhausting. It was so challenging. And a lot of what I thought was me, now this is not to take the accountability aspect away, but a lot of the outbursts, the rage, the suffering, the emotional breakdowns, a lot of it was exasperated by the entities that took advantage of my mental, emotional, and physical state. And
Yeah.
they fed off of it. And then they used other people in my life, my job, my money, my car, everything that they could get their hands on to manipulate and destroy me. Attempted.
Yeah, that
It-
is what they do. And
yes.
most people just don't seem to understand that.
No.
Or if you say, like, as a practitioner, hey, you've got an entity, a lot of people feel guilt and shame around that. They're like,
Yes.
oh, it must be my darkness. Oh, no,
Yes.
it can't possibly be. I'm not lovable if I have an entity.
Yes.
But I will say, and having an entity doesn't mean you're possessed.
No.
It means that you have things around you that are manipulating your life. And it's chronic. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
so what they do is they hook into the areas of our lives where we have that weak link. If it's
Yes.
that weak link in our armor, right? So if it's finances, for example, they're going to mess with your finances and they're
Yep.
going to amplify the thoughts around that to make you stuck in that prison. Yep, in that loop, in that prison, so they can keep feeding on the energy and keep messing up your life. That's what they do because they
Yep.
feed on that. And if it's like maybe codependency or something like that, they will work on the relationships in your life and get things to happen with that. If it's I don't know, whatever it is, if it's your body, if it's illness, if it's pain, they like to be in your body creating illness and pain.
Yep.
Can't tell you how many times I clear an entity and then somebody's pain goes away or they stop having certain aspects of their illness or whatever, right? And so not only do you need to clear the wounding, but you also need to clear the entity and parasitic energies and things like that that are connected to it. And then the body can actually heal because all of that is messing up the energetic flow of your pure existence in this
Yes.
experience.
Yes.
So that's so important because they mess with your thoughts. They mess
Yes.
with your perception and they find a cord. Let's say you had an old wound where you felt like you were abandoned. They will pluck that cord at every opportunity and be like, okay, feel abandoned now. I need some food, feel abandoned,
Yes.
feed off this.
Yes.
And if they're not getting it, they will go outside of you and be like, okay, she's not giving us the food we want, so let's make it happen.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
really need to get to that core root issue of what's happening,
Yes.
that wounding or whatever it is, the trauma. And sometimes it's this lifetime, sometimes it's past lifetimes, it might be ancestral. There's so many different ways and aspects to look at, and there's different areas in which they try to hide out. And it's so funny because like when it's more superficial, I pick up on it really quickly.
Yeah.
I'm just like, ooh, I can feel that. I can taste it. You have an entity with you.
Yep.
But when it's real deep or they don't want to be found out, it's really sly and slick. And I got to really tune into the
Yes.
right thing. And then I feel it. And I'm like, oh, there it is. Right. So it's just fascinating to me, the dark magic, because that's another aspect too, is curses. There's a lot of curses on people. And one of the things I found interesting, and it is fascinating, and being that you had Lyme disease, like, it wouldn't surprise me if you had this curse upon you at one point.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I find a lot of people who there's like a certain type of curse where their environment is used against them.
Yes.
And for some people, it comes at them as mold. For some people, it's more like bird mites or, ticks or whatever, but their environment gets used against them. And then it's almost like their environment attacks them.
Yes.
And there is deeper wounding there that you need to clear up. But that curse or whatever it is, that dark energy comes in and follows them wherever they go. So if they had a bird mite issue at a house, they go to a hotel and they still have a bird mite issue. And then they go to a friend's house and then they still have a bird mite issue,
Yes.
or it shifts to mold or something like that. And I'm like, in all my years, I never even heard that there was such a thing as bird mites, being attacked by bird mites, but these
Yeah.
people get it all over the place.
Yeah.
So there's something attracting it to them. And when I had tuned into that and I had a couple clients with it, it was a curse.
Yes.
So I find it fascinating, and I find it really important to talk about this aspect of healing, because not everyone sees it and not everyone goes for it. And if you're just doing basic energy healing or only consciousness work, you're not going to get to these deeper aspects, and you're not going to resolve those issues as easily. Um,
Yes.
so, but what I will say, if you're not getting to the core root of the issue, the wounding, whatever is allowing that curse or that entity or whatever to hook in, then it's going to keep happening.
Yes.
Even if you clear it once, it'll come back again. So
Yes.
that's the journey, right? And I know it's been such an amazing journey for you. And I was told by your mom multiple times that it's just nothing less than a miracle, because you've come so far and made such huge changes in your life. And just congratulations. You've done a lot of hard work, and it's not easy. The spiritual path is not easy, but
No.
it's what will get you through, right?
Yes.
That's what we're here for.
Yes.
So I'm curious also too about your intuitive abilities, right? Because that's also really important, connecting with your intuition and formulating that ability to be self-empowered and get that information and feel more guided and independent in this journey. Not that, there are times when I need to reach out to other healers for myself because there are blind spots I can't see. But I love that I can also tune in and get information and feel empowered in my own being. So how was that process for you?
Hmm. It's so interesting, because I realize that I've, even since I was a little girl, I was very, very in tune. And I actually would shamanic journey since I was a little girl. I would put music on and I would use my third eye. And it was always when I was going to play sports, and I would visualize myself with the winning goal. But I would visualize myself saving others, like being the hero. And now moving forward, it was really me developing my third eye and my abilities. It exploded in 2017. Every day I live my life in a very multidimensional, very grounded way. I have multiple abilities, everything from remote viewing, clairvoyance, claircognizance. Claircognizance, I probably use the most. It's the most challenging to develop, but alongside of the claircognizance, I developed this deep trust in what I'm receiving. And it's always can be improved upon. I really live with one foot in the spirit world and one foot in the physical. And it's a line that I have to consciously toe each day. It's almost as if I'm in a constant state of what do I want to say? A shamanic journey almost. It's pulling different consciousnesses and working with different high level beings and my own higher self to guide my actions and my thoughts and beliefs, and to not need to go outside of myself for validation, excuse me, confirmation and approval. I've always had the ability to read energy, to feel others, and not just that moment. It's like I can meet someone and I can feel their entire life, past, present, and future. And I've really, really been able to hone those skills and without being invasive. I've really recognized that I have the ability to connect with anyone at any time, any place, anywhere, to the CEO, to the homeless man, to the angry woman, to the shy man. That is intuition. That is a deep, deep, deep inner knowing and a deep respect for that other human and a deep level of compassion. It is increased more and more and more. I utilize different rituals and different tools and nature. I also am a planetary grid worker, so I work with the energies of the land and the sacred sites and also the universe, different planets I tune into, and I'm aware of the astrology, like the, not so much as reading the astrology, but the astrological influences of humanity at this time. Also, I am usually connecting to other stations of my identity, like a simultaneous incarnation that I'm pulling information from to be able to embody and work with my clients and everyday interactions. And this is not an abstract going outside, because we are here on Earth for a mission. So I've had to really learn how to balance that and not go out, but to really allow myself to tune in and receive the information. And there's also a level of geomancy, like I was talking about, being able to be in touch with the ley lines of the earth and the meridians and the energy at this time. And also learning just how connected I am to, I guess you could call it, the world soul. So different aspects of people, the conscious energetic components and the ascension mechanics of our evolutionary potential, and being able to navigate being in this moment, and also knowing that I'm working with, different councils, which we all are on some level, and being able to visualize what's the next step, where do I need to send healing, and being able to remote view on different planets and Earth, and to communicate and coordinate that level of communication. And holistic metamorphosis has really helped me hone in those skills to just get the facts.
Right.
Because it's a lot. When you see me, I'm not just there. I am doing a multitude of different energetic practices at that moment. I'm with a multitude of, I guess you could say, like, people are sitting on their laptops with 8 different screens. That's kind of what I'm moving through in that moment. I'm receiving the images, I'm receiving audibly, I'm receiving the feeling, and I'm receiving the knowing. And so that's how I've been navigating my world.
Yeah, I think it's funny, real quickly, when we talk about intuition, what I've noticed as a teacher of intuition, and doing it myself as well, that you either don't trust what you're getting and think you're not getting much of anything and you don't say anything, or your imagination goes wild and you just go off into these stories, right? And you were one of those that just went off into these stories. You're like, okay, I got a piece of information. It was like, boom. And I was like, wait a minute. Okay, so you've got this mix of like hard level fact that you're getting intuitively, and then you're adding a bunch of stuff to it. So it's so funny. Like I was like, Whitney, just the data. Just the data.
Just the data.
That's it. Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. And you've gotten really good at it. Like now you can take that piece of information that you're getting and tune more into that, and then, but not go off into your imagination with it.
Yes.
Which is hard sometimes, because when you do energy healing, when you're directing energy, you need to use your imagination.
Yes.
But when you're receiving information, you need to be out of the imagination and into a receiving standpoint, and
Yes.
directing your consciousness to get answers sometimes, or just waiting and receiving, depending on how you're getting it.
Yes.
But I just find it fascinating, that people are so like, I don't know, I'm not getting anything. There's nothing going on in here. And I'm like, yes, there is. What do you
There
get
is.
right here? What are you getting? And then
Yes.
they say it and they got it,
On it.
right? And even if
Yes.
it's vague, sometimes things start off more vague because we don't trust ourselves in our receiving. But yeah, no, you're doing great. You're getting lots of information and you're
Thank
really
you.
nailing it. Yeah. So it's good to see. So I wanted to point that out because I know a lot of people who are getting into all this stuff and they're just like, oh, intuition. No.
Oh, it's real. It's so real. I mean, to be able to, I think one of the most beautiful aspects of this whole journey is to be able to experience the authenticity of your soul on an energetic level that,
Mhm.
like the surface of, I think, part of my pain was I could feel things. I was so connected, but it was like I had this dome around me. So it's like that yearning, that soul's yearning of connection with self, and so being able to experience these gifts and are on an energetic level, and then to be able to help others and just everyday interactions, just instead of coming from a place of anger, taking a moment and saying, hold on, healing that trigger in that moment, and then being, it's a process, and then responding with compassion and knowing, and that is the litmus test. When you experience a challenging situation and you respond in a more positive, with integrity and more grace, that's when you know that you're really developing, when you can go into those same situation that would drive you crazy to respond with patience and wisdom and knowing and calmness. So that's been one of the best parts of this journey is peace, is to truly experience real peace within myself, my relationships, and my life.
Yeah, I find it really interesting too. What you're saying is reminding me of the idea that I don't think you can ever be beyond the test. You know what I mean? I think there's always going to be tests, no matter what level you're at. There's always going to be beings around trying to see if they can affect you,
Mhm.
and try to get you to mess up or take a wrong turn, or if there is such a thing as a wrong turn. But they're really trying to cause suffering. And so I think the test really is do you wallow and dive into the suffering, or do you step back and get into your power? And
Yes.
I think most of the time, especially, in the free world, right? Well, if we want to call it free, whatever that is, but in the supposed free world, where we are really jailed and we don't even know it, but supposed free world, we're taught so many wrong things. And we're so taught to be in our victim state. We're so taught to not be empowered, and or that power is anger and reaction as opposed to going within. And the real power is going within.
Yes.
And so you did a really great job of that. And not that we don't get tested. We all get tested. I get tested. You've seen me get tested. We do. We get very tested. And sometimes we can pull out quickly. Sometimes it takes a minute. Sometimes it takes a month or maybe even longer.
Yes.
But the more awareness you have, and the more openness you have, and the more forgiveness you have, the quicker you get past that test or that trigger, and you get to the other side of it, and then you're done.
Yes.
And then you got the next one coming up, and whatever. But but that's the whole goal. That's the key to really navigating this space, this reality, the suffering, the adversities, the challenges, whatever it is you go through. The whole point of the challenge is that hero's journey, and to move forward in that space and to move forward on that path instead of just sitting there and letting it take you down.
Yes.
So I just, you did such a great job of it, and it took you some time, but not as much time as I'm sure it's taking others, and not as much time as it would have taken you if you had not done that work.
Yes.
So great job. Great
Thank you.
job. And I guess to wrap it up, is there anything else you want to say to anybody who might be watching?
Mm. Oh, trust the process and be your own superhero. It's so true that this life is a culmination of so many other lives. There is a waiting line to be on earth at this time, and to release this need of people pleasing and figure out your own authenticity and live that and own it, and you will attract everything that you need. This life and God is so, spirit, source, it's so loving. It's so loving. There is love and the magic in the mundane. It's everywhere. It's not some grand, one moment, oh, I've arrived. It's like we came here as light warriors, as spiritual ambassadors of love and peace, and we chose to be here on earth at this time. And you're always being led. Even when you feel stuck, you're not doing it alone. That was one of the biggest revelations of my life, that I wasn't alone. And so if you need to find that spiritual community, pray. If you need that healing, do the energy healing. It will show up. Meet the universe halfway. You don't have to do it all alone. You are part of such a beautiful puzzle piece of this, the greatest transformation the universe has ever seen. And you have the galactics helping, we have the angels helping, we have people on the ground crew helping. You are part of something bigger than you could ever have imagined. And piece by piece, synchronicity by synchronicity, you are always being led. You are always supported and seen and loved. And whatever challenge you're going through is what you're meant to specialize in this lifetime, most likely. So if you're feeling that challenge, be that specialist and get in. Seriously, every day I look at myself like a superhero, not because I'm the only superhero, but there's a team of superheroes. We're all part of a team. And you have something incredibly special to bring to this world that no one else can do but you. So trust yourself and trust the process and that unconditional love. You are so beautiful. And at any moment, you can change. You can heal 100% of the things that you have been through.
I love it. Thank you. And if you're watching and you're interested in any of this, if you have things that you feel stuck in and you're having a difficult time or you're struggling, please, please, please reach out. That you can heal from these things. You don't need to be stuck in it. It does take work. It does take diligence. You have to really apply the wisdom. You have to apply the techniques. You have to apply the effort, and you have to get healing done. You have to go for it. It's not something that gets done once and then you're completely healed. It's a evolutionary process, and it's time to dive in and jump in and get it done. All right, guys.
Yes.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Bye.